Introducing this year's most sought-after rookie, the M&T Bank Jets debit card. This superstar is sure to be charging through checkout lines all season long.
Hey Jets fans, you got to get your hands on the M&T Jets debit card. Rush into any M&T Bank branch today or learn more by clicking the banner. M&T Bank, the official community bank of your New York Jets. Offers subject to change and certain restrictions, conditions, and fees may apply. Member FDIC.
Stop jumping on me. Why are you doing that?
Having a bad dog day?
Rex, come back here.
From police dogs to pet dogs, from potty training to pet peeves, #1 best-selling author and 30-year canine trainer Andy Falco knows how to get to the meat of what's eating your dog. This is Falco Canine Dog Talk, the show that helps you and your dog create a relationship of love and respect.
What a good boy. Good heel, Rex. I love you, Rex.
And now here's your host, Andy Falco.
Hello, my friends. This is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy's Train the Dog Trainer program and Falco Canine's Dog Talk. And this is going to be a fun one. And it's the most interesting aspect of being a dog trainer, and that is your competition or your fellow dog trainers in the dog training world. And But first, before I get into that, I just want to remind you that in the comment section, you will find the link to the Train the Dog Trainer journal. As you know, I really endorse journaling. I broke out. I was doing some cleaning of one of my storage sheds and was able to get in a couple boxes and look at some of my old journals. And it's so funny what I used to use for journals, all these different, it wasn't just one thing. And so I was so encouraged by the journal that I created that if you just get that, those will actually look pretty decent on your shelf. And because I was using yellow pads, I was using paper in my posse box, which is what us police officers carry around that hold the ticket books and all the other forms that we use on a daily basis. And it was so funny. Even found a couple. I forgot what they're called when you're in college. Those little black and white books that you have. But and started reading into them, and I was just so excited and fun, reading what I'd put in there and taking me back. And I remembered some of the scenarios that I'd written down there and some of the things. So they are even fun just later on in life to go back to and remember where you were and what you were doing. And the things that you thought about dog training at that time and how it evolves over time. So the link for that book, it's in Amazon. If you just type in, just click on that link, it'll take you to Amazon, and you can get the book there. If you forget, just type in Andy Falco Jimenez in the search engine for Amazon itself, and it'll take you to a list of the journals that I have there and books. I'm relaunching my book, Falco Walking with God and a Dog, to see if I can get #1 best-selling status. I have a number of #1 best-selling books, but not that one. And strangely enough, I've sold more copies of that book than any other book that I've written. So I'll be launching that. When I'm recording this, it's in 2017, towards the end of the year. And so this may have long passed, but if you're listening it fairly close to the time that I'm publishing it, then look for those links in the Falco Canine Academy Facebook page for the relaunch of that. It'll be happening here in the next couple weeks. It's November 14th, I think, today. So within the next couple weeks, I'll be relaunching that book. Also, I have a Train the Dog Trainer program. I'll be putting a link for that. Also, it's a series of videos to go along with these podcasts and go a little bit deeper into not only the subjects that are in the podcast, but other subjects that are relevant to you as a dog trainer. And so look for that program, and the links to get in there will all be in the description of this particular podcast. So let's jump right in and talk a little bit about competition. And of course, as long as I've been in the dog world, even before I became what I would call later as a professional dog trainer, I knew of this aspect of the dog world, and that is that the only thing that two dog trainers can agree on is that the other one, well, we used to say sucks at the time, but the other one is is not a great dog trainer or something along those lines. You just there's all types of iterations of that particular thing, but it's all the same, right? It's no two dog trainers can agree on anything other than you are a horrible dog trainer. So I just for me personally, as I began to get paid to be a dog trainer and began to get noticed as a dog trainer, I vowed that I would do my best, no matter what I could do, no matter what happened, to not badmouth other trainers. That I was going to make a pact with myself and the dog training gods, whatever those are, and just say, okay, I'm going to not be that type of trainer that's going to badmouth training. And as time went on, it becomes more difficult, right? And because there are people that are in the industry that are horrible, that that do make our life hard in the dog training world, and so they make it difficult. And although I've held pretty strong to that concept, I can say that there have been times where I may have said something about a technique, and of course we know that techniques there's certain techniques that can be tied to specific trainers because that's all they do. So that becomes challenging. But I would encourage you, as whether you are currently a dog trainer or new to the industry, is that you take the same kind of pact, because what I'm about to tell you is really, really important, because it's rampant in the dog world, and that is the trend, the lengthy trend, as long as I've been involved in dogs, has been that when you go to a trainer, what they tend to do first is talk about other dog trainers and how horrible they are, or I can't believe you went to them, or who did you go to? Oh, you're kidding me. That guy does. And the only reason I know is because I've heard and I've been present when it's been done, and I go out with other trainers, and one of the first things they want to do is talk about other trainers and how horrible they are, instead of what it is that they're doing to make the dog training world better. And so you want to understand that when somebody comes to you, there's a strong likelihood that they have talked to other trainers before they've talked to you, whether it's with another dog or as they're shopping around looking for a trainer for the dog they have now. And so they're, and I'm telling you, this is true. I've dealt with a lot of different TV show producers, news show producers, attorneys when they're looking for an expert in regard to dog trainers, that one of the comments they say is, what, you're different than everybody else. The first half hour of talking to anybody is about everybody else. And one thing I like about talking to you, and that's them talking to me, about something, or even my assistant when they're talking to her, is that, Andy, you don't waste my time talking about other people and what it is that they do or don't do. And they say that's refreshing, because almost always when we talk to somebody else about dog training, they spend at some point, not always right at the beginning, but at some point, if we bring up a concept or bring us up, well, that's what such and such does, and that's what Cesar Millan does, or that's what Steve White does, or I'm trying to think of other names without going too far to where I want to offend somebody. I'm sure I've spoke to Cesar when we were doing our show together, and he's well aware of what was said about him. And even I told him that I use a video that's one of your shows that shows you getting bit by a Labrador Retriever. He goes, oh yeah, I made some mistakes on that one, and he's very well aware of when he's made mistakes and is not afraid to say so, and he's also well aware of what people say. Steve White, a good friend of mine, I've taught alongside of him for a number of years, back in the 90s and early 2000s, and he is one of the few purely what he would like to think is purely positive training methods and click and treat police dog trainers that I know of. He may be the only one that I know of, but I do click and treat, but it's not one of my primary things, where with him it is his primary thing. And so And Steve is the same way. I've never heard him say anything really, even in private with one-on-one. I've never heard him speak poorly of another dog trainer. And I really think that is the first thing you need to really focus on, in that focus on yourself. What is it that you're doing to make dog training better, to come up with a system, whether it's been done before, and make it your own, and in a way that is good for the dog training industry and good for your clients, right? What is it? Don't focus on what other people are doing. Now, I focus on what it is they're doing so I can learn, right? But it's not to the point where I focus on what they're doing so that I can badmouth them and use what it is they do against them so that I can gain something, whether it's their clients and customers or put myself above them in some way or another on my Facebook page. Now, again, there is an aspect. I was talking about the bonker method the other day, and I think that it's truly tied to a particular trainer, which his name is escaping me right now. I did not realize I was going to bring him up, but oh God, I can't think of his name. I want to say it's Greg, but I'm not 100% sure. But the bonker method, it was brought up to me. People asked me, what do you think of the bonker method? I'd never heard of it, so I had to watch a couple of videos on YouTube. And obviously, the name matches what it is. You hit a dog with a rolled up towel. And it's so difficult because I want to talk about it, but I know that it's closely tied to this gentleman. And so I want to make sure and have people understand that it's the method I'm talking about and not bad-mouthing him. And you can walk that line every so often. So it's going to be difficult. It's not always easy. And so I'm not telling you that, I've never said anything that puts anybody in a bad light. Well, I think, and just to kind of visit my Facebook Live that I was discussing this bonker method on, is that I was talking about that the method actually works, right? On certain dogs in certain situations. I wouldn't use it on a puppy as he was in one of the videos. But again, he has choice to do that. But I'm just saying that if I were to use it, it wouldn't be probably on most puppies. It would have to be a puppy in a very special situation. It did not look to me that the video that he was using it on the puppy that was the correct thing to do for what I do, but maybe it was for him and for his situation that he was trying to make the point then. I don't necessarily think that it harms dogs. For me, it is the perception. It is the aspect that it can shock the consciousness of somebody watching you working with their dog, that you've taken this thing that appears to be big and bulky and you've thrown it at their dog and caused their dog to roll over on its side and nearly pee on himself. It is that visual. Right? I don't know that thing happening to that dog destroyed him. As a matter of fact, the dog got right back up. The dog went to the trainer, kind of hugged on him. Again, dogs often do that in the sense that, please don't do that to me again. You really scared me, and what have I done to upset you? And they kind of do that. It's not necessarily loving. It is kind of in a weird way, a little bit of respect, saying, okay, I get that I did something wrong. I'm really not quite sure what I did wrong. Maybe it was the fact that I was trying to go after those treats in your hands, but I promise I won't do it again, so please don't hit me. Now, you could look at that, people like, oh, that's horrible that the dog does that. But I know that I do that with my kids, right? When I take away their phone and say, you're grounded for 2 weeks, what's the first thing they do? Oh, Dad, I'm sorry that I've upset you. And it's not, right? It's not because they're in pain or I've hurt them. It's because they want their phone back, right? There may be a little bit of love in there, but in the issue of being regretful in what their actions caused to do, and they think that I have to show Dad that I do love him, that I didn't mean to do that. But there's also the fact that they want the phone back, right? And so the dog too, I think in some way, hugging up is not that you've harmed them mentally and that they're coming to show you that they love you. There is an aspect of like, I really didn't like that. Please don't do that again. And I don't think that is harmful either. But back to my point. My point in bringing it up was that it can shock people. Like, you just hit my dog with that big thing. And that's what my point was in bringing it up. Is there something else you can use in training that dog that you can try first? And then set them up and say, listen, these are the things we've done. So far, we haven't seen a change in your dog's behavior. There's this one skill that can be used, and it's called bonking. And we take a towel. When your dog does that thing, we throw it down, and then it'll hit your dog. Being mindful that it's a towel rolled up, it's soft, it's not going to injure your dog in any way, but it will cause the dog a little concern and may cause them to roll over on their back and kind of show, total submissiveness. And I don't want you to be shocked when it happens. Is it okay that we use this just to see if it'll help your dog in this particular situation, right? And so you can set them up better than just simply bonking them. And that was my point with the thing. Now, I've not used bonking with anybody's dog in training because I've not had to go there. I've had other tools in my tool chest that work better, I think, and do not shock the consciousness of the people who have entrusted me with their dog. All right, so there's a way of negatively talking about a system of training or a style of training where it is attached to a person and not necessarily go after them and say, how horrible they are. Again, those are the words that I've heard more than anything else, and probably stronger words, that trainer is full of blop, or they suck, or they're horrible people. All of those words, and again, stronger, I have heard about other trainers. So hopefully I didn't beat that up too much, and you're still with me. So that's the first. You want to make sure that you're focusing on yourself. That if you're going to badmouth something, badmouth the system, not the person. If it is attached to a person, then say, you know what, this works for them. Do whatever you can to not give the appearance that you're just simply trying to badmouth somebody because you're afraid that they're going to take your business. That's the perception. Maybe it's not really what you're doing, but that's the perception that it can have on other people. And I know because that's what the customers tell me. They only do it because they're trying to keep me from going to them and go to them instead, right? You want to do it so that's not the result, because that turns people off very quickly. And pretty soon as their mind is going to that, they're not listening to you any longer. And what you're saying is meaningless at this point. The next thing is you want to also take that tack because you never know when you're going to need somebody else. There's been times where I've needed another trainer, even the trainers that maybe I don't agree with their training methods, namely my former police dog trainer who used the methods that I spoke about before, the cattle prods and the sticks and that kind of stuff. Our paths crossed. We spoke at the same events. I was a judge where he was the lead judge master for the event, and our paths crossed. And so it would have been very easy if he would have heard that I was bad-mouthing him, in a way that would say, he goes, I'll have anybody for a judge except for Andy, because he's been going around bad-mouthing me and telling people how horrible I am. And that, fortunately for me, was just the opposite. And then you're saying, well, why would you want to do something where he's involved? Well, how better to make an impact on the police dog handlers that were at that event than it would be for them to meet me and learn that I'm not that kind of person that talks about other trainers, but I do have a method that they might like and have that opportunity to speak to them. That's what I talk about in the title of this, Keeping Your Enemies Close, which is a very common saying, right? Is that you want to not put yourself in a position where none of your competition wants you around. Right? They will do whatever they can if you're at an event together to get you not to be there because you spent too much of your time bad-mouthing them and saying horrible things about them, even if it's warranted. and now you can't be in any situation with them because they are going to do whatever it takes to not have you be a part of that program. It could be a pet seminar. It could be a pet expo at Orange County, fairgrounds or Las Vegas. It could be at Super Zoo. And at some point, they may be able to block you from being at things because you are the person who's known for bad-mouthing other people. And thereby, you can't keep your enemies close. And I think that's important. I would go to seminars involving some of my competition, and they were happy to have me there or not. They didn't feel that having me there was going to cause them any conflict. And I love that. There were a guy named Uncle Matty that I would go to his seminars, and he knew who I was. There is Fred Hasen with Sit Means Sit, who uses only electronic collars, right? And I was not a threat to him. I wasn't one of those guys that was bad-mouthing electric collars in a way that he didn't want me at the seminar because, hey, why would he want me there? If I was bad-mouthing him and his techniques and his company, he would not want me there because he would be afraid that I would be turning off the attendees that I'd be sitting next to. And I've gone to, I think, 2 or 3 of his seminars. As a matter of fact, when he sees me, no matter what event it is, whether it's one of his or an event that we happen to be to together, he gives me a big hug and says, "Hey, Andy," and treats me as if I'm one of his long-lost friends. And that's how I prefer it. And I think that that's my recommendation to anybody coming into this industry, is that you keep your enemies close. You want to be able to attend seminars. You want to be able to be at the events that you're all at together and not feel uneasy about being in the same room. Now, I've had trainers who have stolen from me. I have trainers that work for me that have taken my equipment and even taken dogs and sold them out from underneath me. I had a trainer who asked me to send me one of my dogs that was about a $6,000 dog up to him in the state of Washington, where he then sold it for $15,000 and kept the money. And he's never spoke to me again. And never paid me a dime, by the way. And so I know that you are going to have people in your circle that, again, it's not the only trainer that worked for me that stole from me. I've had trainers tell people that they own Falco Canine Academy and I work for them. And I've had contracts with major organizations who've called me and said, hey, I heard that this other person actually is the owner of the business. And I think I've mentioned in other podcasts. So I hear you. I hear you that there's some horrible things that happen to you. And surely you can sue them and that kind of stuff. And that is probably one thing that you probably should do. I have not done that up to this point, mostly because of the cost to do it would be more than what I would get in return, and the possibility of having them pay for my legal and just the aspect in the years that you're in court and that kind of stuff just was going to be too much. And so I made decisions not to do that. I have been in the same room with that one person who stole the dog, who then took the money and just walked right past him and held my head higher than his and walked through and shook hands with people around him and had conversations while he stood there. And that is what I do and become very good at it. Again, I know you're not me, and I know that, every situation is different. And then later on, and not him, but the trainer who actually tried to tell people that she owned the business. Actually, two of them. I've had two different people that have worked for me that have done that to me. And then but have also gone and tried to open up Falco Canine Academies in other cities and thinking that I would never hear about it. And later on, because of whatever circumstances, they finally got their wits about them or somebody spoke to them, have gotten business referred to me from them. I've had people come to me and say, hey, I came to you because blah, 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 referred me to you saying that you're the best in dealing with the situation. And I said, wait a minute, who referred you? And no kidding. The very person who was attempting to steal business from me just 4 or 5 years earlier was now recommending people to me and referring business to me. So it is funny how this works. It saves you stress. It gives you information. Again, being able to attend certain seminars, even with the people that I don't particularly agree with, there are maybe things they're either doing well that you can learn from, or there are things that they're doing poorly that you can learn from. And you want to learn both, right? You want to go, you know what? I went to that seminar and how they handled that was bad. I want to make sure and not do that, because I was thinking about doing something very close to that. And thank God I went to a seminar and saw it firsthand how it fails, right? I can tell you, I went to a seminar in Las Vegas and saw a guy go up and on stage with 2 of his dogs and try to speak and do a PowerPoint presentation while he had his dogs up there, not demonstrating dog training. He had his dogs. His thought, I think, was that he was going to show how fantastic his dogs were while he was able to speak and not. And I don't know what he was thinking, but the dogs were getting up. They were licking themselves. They were jumping off the stage. He was having to call them back. He would tell them to down. They wouldn't lay down. He was telling them to sit. They wouldn't sit. He was telling them to come to him. They wouldn't come to him. And there he was as the leading expert in dog training. And the dogs that he had brought up there, just for whatever purposes, he never used them for dog training. They were just running around like idiots, and he couldn't control them. And I go, wow, that is awesome. I will never make that mistake. I will never have a dog out unless I know exactly what the outcome is going to be. That is one of the things we'll end up talking about later, is that you always want to set up for success. So if I have a dog out, it's going to be because I have something specific to do, and I know the likelihood of it working and going well is very, very high. I will not take a dog that is borderline of certain behavior and then believe that it's not going to be borderline on the day that I'm in front of 100 people. As a matter of fact, I know for sure that it won't, and the dog won't do it. And so from that one talk, it was the worst talk on the planet. And I would never even tell you who that is. It was so many years ago in Las Vegas, you'll never find out. But it was the worst talk I've ever heard and the worst situation. And I probably learned more from that one attendance and that one. I think it was like an hour-long presentation. That one presentation, I learned more in that one presentation than almost any other presentation that I've been a guest in or a student of. And so, yes, I would tell you never, if you can, take the opportunity to never not take the opportunity to be at an event if you can go, especially in the early stages. Even if you don't think you're going to like what they're going to do, go there, watch it, learn from the mistakes, learn from the successes, be a part of as much as you possibly can in the early stages, as much as you can afford. I traveled to Philadelphia. I would to the Kingdom of Prussia. I attended just about every seminar there. It was a week-long APDT conference. Week long, maybe it was 3 or 4 days. I can't remember how long it was, but it seemed like a really long time. I attended a lot of seminars, learned from the best, learned from the worst. I've driven, from my home in Riverside to other states just to go to an hour or 2 hour long seminar. And I can't tell you all the things that I did in the early days. Flew to Canada, Europe, South America to see what was going on and to meet trainers and to watch trainers. And some of them are great. Some of them were not. And it was all learning. It was fantastic. So in the end, you want to make sure and look at your competition as opportunity to create relationships, even with the people that you may not agree with what they do, so that you can have more opportunity to learn, more opportunity to engage and network in the same audiences that they're at. And again, focus on yourself. Focus on what it is that you do, not what it is that they do. Focus on how you make a difference in a dog's life, in a relationship between the human and the dog, and focus on how you make the industry better. All right, so that's it for me on this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you at the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Falco Canine Dog Talk, the show that helps you and your dog create a relationship of love and respect. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address at www.falcocanineacademy.com and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Falco Canine Academy. Follow us on twitter.com/Falco Canine Academy and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Falco143. And remember, if you've got questions for Andy, call the Canine line at 714-798-9961. That's 714-798-9961. This is a production of Falco Enterprises Incorporated. All rights reserved.
Introducing this year's most sought-after rookie, the M&T Bank Jets debit card. This superstar is sure to be charging through checkout lines all season long.
Hey Jets fans, you got to get your hands on the M&T Jets debit card. Rush into any M&T Bank branch today or learn more by clicking the banner. M&T Bank, the official community bank of your New York Jets. Offers subject to change and certain restrictions, conditions, and fees may apply. Member FDIC.